Come on, come and say good day. I'll slip an extra shrimp on the barbie for you. Come and say good
day. And I am starting to just become a big, huge Commie Mark fan. So.
What up, bitches? Hello, it's me, Commie Mark. Welcome to the show where we do that thing that we do. I'm still working on that pre-show thing. So this week there may or may not be a super injunction about to expire, and the UK media is, preparing for a feeding frenzy. I haven't got the light on. What's so Phillip Schofield, like a daytime TV presenter, former child presenter, is in a lot of hot water at the moment. Like, he's got his lawyers in, he's got his crisis management team in, and to help me discuss those events this week, I've got my own crisis management team, that I'm going to bring in now. Usually, I'd throw to the Secretary of the Revolution, Jan, but he's not here. So I was thinking, who else is around that I can get? And I thought, perfect, Bristolian Dave, Assalamualaikum, comrade.
Absolute bellboy. All right, me babbers, how's it going, everybody? And thank you for that wonderful introduction, Mark.
You're welcome. So you're going to be filling in for Jan's role this evening, which means that the responsibility of crafting the propaganda poem is going to fall onto you. Are you going to be all right to do that?
I'm going to be fucking Shakespeare, me.
Yeah, sweet. All right. So a round of applause for Dave. Returning to the show for the second time now, we've got Wales's answer to Radio 4. As soon as I heard this guy's voice, I was like, we're getting this guy. I'm going to force him to become part of my clique, whether he likes it or not. It's Ryan Roger Ate. Hello. How are you, comrade?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Look how many books Bristolian Dave has, folks. It just goes to show that he is a proper dude. I have my towers, but they could fall at any minute. But it's great to be here, and hopefully we have a great talk about Phillip Schofield and all of his friends, like Gary Glitter, Rolf Harris, and good old Jimmy Savile as well. So
come on, now then, don't go all the way to Savile yet. We're only 5 minutes into the show. We also have two noobs who have never been on the show before. Oh, pardon me. A round of applause. Before we bring on the noobs, though, we'll quickly check in with the chat because there seems to be a bunch of people here. Michael McCartney says, late as always. Thank you. Dave's dropping links in the chat. If you've got a wrench, drop a link. That you're allowed to do that. Stencilitis Jan says, at a cultural event, so Dave is grabbing the tiller tonight. Ice Cream's here. Hello. Michael McCartney says you're throwing Dave in the deep end. He doesn't have much experience on streams. That's not true. Dave is the host of the Bargain Bin every Monday, right, Dave?
Yeah, Bargain Bin over on our Aria Blackness's channel, and of course do my own streams on my own channel. Link in the chat for that. Movies and shit, basically.
GB says waste of time. Nothing happened at 9 p.m. We'll stick around. I did not forget. Oh yeah, this is all from like before the show even started. Billy Basco's here. Face view. Hello, Billy. The Rat King. I have returned from Bork and Crown. Hello, that's my buddy in my Discord. Join my Discord if you haven't already. Oh, which reminds me, you can get a link to the Discord. Like if you go to our Twitch page, like we're doing the monetize Twitch in 30 days challenge thing. You have to maintain an average of 3 live viewers. So I'm asking people if you would be so kind, like to go and also watch the show there, like in another tab or something. I'll put a link in the chat so you can go and do that. Thank you. All right, so where are we? I've lost which screen I'm on. Here we are. Right, so noobs and it. Like, let's bring in the noobs. The first guest, the first time that I saw him on YouTube, I was like, this guy is the Pat Sharp of YouTube. Like another like classic name. I have to like talk to this guy. So that's Dan Hadley. Hello, Dan. Host of
Fucking, I was wondering where you're going with that. Then Pat Sharp. I thought you can't possibly be talking about me. Gary Davis, maybe. Pat Sharp. Yeah, I'm getting. I think I'm feeling a bit too much to be. I don't know if I should be flattered by that, but thank you. Perestroika, happy glasnost. Happy to be here. Coming, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome. Like, welcome back to you. Like, bring in all the noobs at the same time. Another person is this person's on Mr. Brown's Alliance, which is another like big UK show. It's Z3PO. Hello.
Good evening, Comrade Mark.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, so for noobs who have never been on the show before, we always open with this question. If I can find it.
Are you a member of the Communist Party? Or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?
Well, sir, I speak over 6 million forms of communication, and commie is not one of them.
And Dan, you got an answer?
Oh, am I ever been? No, I'm not, and I never have been either. Like a lot of people, when I was a student, I flirted with leftism the way that many people do when they're young and dumb and full of you know what. But I very quickly came to my senses.
Yeah, that's fine. You're allowed to like think whatever you want. Like, I don't care. Your opinion makes no difference to my external reality. You know, it's in your head.
Yeah, communism is a lovely idea in principle, but could never work. And no, they keep telling you that real communism's never been tried. Yes, it has. It has. Just don't listen to them. They're morons. Yeah. They are gaslighting you.
My position is, I look around at this society that we're in right now, and this clearly isn't winning. Like, things can be a lot better than this. So, Dan, this is your channel, the Spacebook. It's very nice. Like, it's very good. Wow. We've got a bunch of people in the chat who probably don't know who you are. You want to like take a couple of minutes? Like,
I'll gladly take a couple of minutes. I've never been backward in coming forward. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, and I run the Spacebook YouTube channel, among other things, here on YouTube. The big show on that, I suppose, is Type 40, my Doctor Who podcast. Huge Doctor Who fan. Been in the Doctor Who fandom community now most of my life, and I'm the host, showrunner, producer of a podcast called Type 40, which is all Doctor Who, and we do the live version of it here on the Spacebook channel. Now, obviously, if you're a Doctor Who fan, that's going to help with all of that stuff. But to be honest, I like to think that even if most people in Britain certainly have heard of Doctor Who, if you're aware of it, you probably find something to enjoy on Type 40 Live. So come and find us over there. I'm also on Rumble too as Type 40 Doctor Who podcast. So if you are, obviously we all know that YouTube is evil. We've got to keep that. We've got to whisper about that. YouTube is evil. So head over to Rumble as well and get on board with Type 40 Doctor Who podcast there too. That's after you subscribe to the Spacebook and get some of my stuff in your life. So it's not just Doctor Who. I do all manner of movies and TV and lots of other things too, classic stuff and new stuff, and some of the culture war coverage too that I know everybody on YouTube just laps up when we have a pop at Kathleen Kennedy and that dopey bloke who runs Star Trek, all that. So you can find that there on the Spacebook channel.
So I'm not particularly a Doctor Who fan, but I get enjoyment out of your show. Yes. But at the same time, I've watched podcasts about The Bachelor, without even watching the thing, it's just two people talking about their thoughts on the show, and sometimes that is just enough, isn't it? The chemistry between
with those shows, obviously, because that's The Bachelor's a reality show, is it not, Mark?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can break down that stuff, and you can, depending on how adept you are at how much you know about human nature. And if you've been around a bit, a bit about dating, you can see through a lot of the people they have on those kind of shows pretty quick. And if you've certainly had plenty of relationships, like some of us might have done, then some of the behaviours that you see on that, and some of the stunts that people pull across one another, you can see through all of that too. So that's why that content does very, very well. I like that stuff too. I don't watch a great deal of it because there's hours and hours of it, but I do see what you mean.
And interest, so we're going to be looking at a lot of interesting behaviors and people trying to pull one over on other people. We'll get to that.
It depends on what they're pulling.
Well, that's the question. Z, so I've seen you a bunch of times on this show, Mr. Brown's Alliance, you're a regular panelist there.
I hail from the Mr. Brown Alliance channel. We discuss movies and pop culture. We spent the last 3 Wednesdays discussing the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. So if you've got 6 or 7 hours to spare, you can catch all 3 parts.
We got Billy Basco in the chat says, thank God there are no Yankees on the panel. You guys can have an adult discussion.
Yeah, no misunderstandings. Everyone speaks proper English.
That's great. A burn.
And no one's ripping each other's throat out over drama crap.
No one dropping U's out of their words unnecessarily.
Did you say colour? There were you in that.
They think are chips over there and vice versa. It's very confusing.
Well, Hungan Dung says, I like eccentric older women like Philip and big-titted women like Genuine Comics is here. Hello from the Netherlands. Quick check. Yeah, so we've got 5 people on Twitch right now. That's great. Thanks for that, Dave, dropping a link. My only issue with this show, Mr. Brown Alliance, is that sometimes when I glance at the screen, I read it as Red Brown Alliance, which is a very different thing, leaning into the way my communist brain works, which also happens on this show, reality based, because Marxism's based on material reality or whatever.
You can see on the thumbnail, that's the black version of me, the Netflix version. Someone memed me.
I wonder where that was
on
going.
The right, Commie. On the right.
Yeah, so all 3 of you are, shall we say, experts at doing this very thing of taking, here's the thing of the news, Black Queen Cleopatra, let's give our opinions on that and move on. And that was what this show was supposed to be today. I wanted to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and how well or not well it's doing. I don't know. I didn't really check. And on Monday, I was like, okay, so Eurovision's happening. There's going to be some trans or Ukraine virtue signaling going on. wasn't really very much of that. Like the most exciting thing was Mel Goydrick, like churning that butter, like which I found
Weirdly
kind of
erotic, Mark.
erotic, yeah.
Strangely.
And like this week,
Particular dry spell, is it? 2023.
it's that
BBC
face that she
milk
was
maker.
pulling like really sells it. And in in my sphere of cultural influence or whatever, in the comic book world, they just killed Miss Marvel, like in the comic books, and it's like, hilarious because
Don't get too excited. She'll be back by the autumn.
oh yeah, of course. But what's delicious about it is that like when they started the MCU and they killed off like Iron Man and they replaced Thor and they did all of this stuff like just before the movies were coming out, and it led to the whole like sort of anti-establishment comic book movement.
They've never heard of the word synergy, have they, at Marvel Comics? It is bizarre.
The absolute worst marketing plan like ever. Whoever came up with it.
But when they did that like 10, 15 years ago, however long ago it was, the very people who were like laughing and saying, haha, like you guys are dying, like the time of old white men is over, like here's Miss Marvel, here's Riri Williams and stuff, like they're the future now. And they were saying, oh, don't worry, they'll be back, no one stays dead. Like now it's happening to them, and it like I'm watching them cry about it on Twitter is hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is that, I mean, Dave, you probably know this better than I do. Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, whatever you think of what's gone on, how they've crucified the character of Carol Danvers. But in my view, Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel was probably, it says more about modern comics than anything else, I suppose. But in the last 15 years, she's probably the most interesting character that Marvel have created. But they've continued to do nothing with her successively over a period of time, really dilute the initial appeal of, because she's so interesting visually. And not because she's non-Caucasian, but more how the nature of her powers, those big fists and things like that. It was a great character at the right time. But Marvel have kind of deconstructed her, and now they just sort of pass her around like some sort of political plaything, don't they? Rather than concentrate on what they could have with her. So they've been the undoing of that. It doesn't say much that she's probably their best creation in this last 15 years, but it is something. And they've fumbled even that ball because everybody working there is a talentless tit.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people will say like Kamala is shit purely because of how she's been handled. But the character itself could have been really good, but they're all scared of writing her in a good story because they don't want to offend anyone. They don't want to step on anyone's toe because of obviously her background and ethnicity and everything. They're so scared of actually writing a story that could appeal to readers.
I know of several what you could call, I don't want to use the word veteran, seasoned comics writers, people you've heard of who would love a chance to write that character because they feel that she is something that it's still existed until recently in a proto form where there's a lot of scope for her. But of course, now that they're doing this, it's all over. Really, she's becoming a
we've gone from Kamala Khan to Kamala Harris in 15 years, folks. It's awful.
The character's never been that popular, has it? I mean, her book's been cancelled twice.
Not really. No,
The
there
TV
was initial
series...
buzz. Z, there was initial buzz around her, but it was something that was gradually built. I think once they whacked her into the champions, that at the time, I can see why they did that, even considering the other characters that were there. But once she came out of that series, which was another failure, I think it's all been over since then. Really.
And the Disney Plus series. Go ahead.
No, go on.
Yeah, the Disney Plus series was also had the lowest viewing figures, so people are just not gelling with the character at all.
Oh well, yeah.
But that she's got her as 1/3 of a big budget Hollywood movie, and I really don't think that's the best utilization of the character at all.
Well, my big issue with Miss Marvel is what makes an American super conglomerate think that they can lecture 14-year-old Muslim girls on how to live their life. But if you do want to support like
I think she's
non-Disney
Indian,
comic books,
so that could be an insult. Comic.
Just going
She's
back
Indian.
my book, please, if you haven't already. The great irony is that the revolution, it just needs money.
I am once again asking for your financial support.
Become like a channel member, send a super chat, anything every small contribution that the bots in the chat make is huge and influential. So yeah, I wanted to cover all of those types of news stories on it, but instead, what happened was on Monday, the main story was this Phil and Holly thing, and then all the way till now, it still seems to be the number one trending thing, in the British tabloids. And usually, I would ignore it because I don't care about TV. I don't even have a TV. I don't even watch This Morning. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't affect me in any way. But it did sort of start off my my cancel culture senses tingling or whatever. It's oh, here's the media all ganging up on one old white man. What's going on here? And then the more that began to look into the story, the more I was oh damn, someone has to cover this. And sadly, that person's me. So they've had a big falling out or whatever. Oh, let me put this in. I thought this was already in. So this is them, Holly and Phil, just the day before the Queen died, probably the most popular TV presenters in the UK. Anyone disagree with that?
They look like Lady Penelope and Parker stood there.
They look like they've had a sleepless night on crack.
Yeah,
I mean,
Philip.
I still would. Holly,
Oh yeah.
Holly Willabooby.
Yeah, so it's been all over the news for a week, and every article that I read, none of them really have any information in. It's they're just creating articles, clickbait articles with the names in the titles, because people will click on them, and every day there's been more and more people lining up to take shots at Phillip Schofield.
Well, they have to speculate, Mark. That's the issue, because there are very few actual facts out there. All of this talk about animosity between these two presenters who've both been on our screens. I think even Holly's been on the screen now for 20 years. Even this is sort of conjecture at this point. Neither of them have spoken about this. This is things that have come out in whispers from disgruntled colleagues and other as yet unnamed sources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's amazing the number of people that you would expect to be allies with the cast of This Morning, who are coming out to take digs at him. Even yesterday, the Deputy Prime Minister made a joke about them in the Houses of Parliament. And
when people are taking the piss out of you in the Houses of Parliament, then that's so bad. I mean, obviously, because the last thing that they want is the public looking at them, so they'd rather go on about these two. It says more. Yeah, it says more about MPs, I suppose, than them. But
yeah, really. So they're not speaking. And Phil's got his lawyers in and stuff. And it's oh, why would you get lawyers in? That's suspicious and strange or whatever.
See, this is, in my view, this is these are two different stories involving the same guy. So you've got an interpersonal thing there. If Phil and Holly are barely speaking, that's between them. But Phil calling in lawyers over him potentially having a frosty relationship with a co-worker, I find that I do think that's unlikely. If he has called in a lawyer, I find it unlikely that would be the reason. I think it's because of something else. He may have called in lawyers or changed his team or whatever he's doing. Again, this is just whispers in the sun.
Well, my what I'm going to try and convince you of before the end of this show is that these two are indeed interconnected and relating to the same thing.
Okay.
So Eamon Holmes took some shots at them, and Ruth Langsford. These are both like former This Morning peoples. There's so this is where we go. Who is Phillip Schofield? So I'm a young man.
And people didn't know he was gay back then.
I know, right? Like, so Phillip Schofield was already off children's TV when I was a child. So Dan, like I'm coming to you two guys, like in
You
the
saucy
80s or
bastard.
whatever.
Honestly.
What was your
Get
impression of him like in the 80s when he was a younger man?
Well, when he was doing Going Live, he's quite the competent presenter. And I thought he was very jovial, was very likable, and he kept the audience engaged. And I mean, this is a testament to his professionalism, which I think may be the issue as to why there is said rift. But obviously, we're going to that a bit later. But yeah, he was very bouncy, very happy, and he was absolutely a joy to tune into. But of course, you knew we were going for Gordon.
Yeah, well, that was the stroke of genius with this, really, as with a lot of television back in the 70s and the 80s. When Phillip Schofield came to British television, he'd worked extensively in New Zealand up until that point. When he arrived on British television in 1985 in the broom cupboard, he was, and the people he was working with were pioneering a brand of children's TV that is now very, very commonplace. He was the first face. They were always before disembodied voices, just like you still get on the BBC. There was a voiceover, a spinning globe, and that was that. It was no different for the kids' stuff than it was for the adult stuff. And then Phillip Schofield appeared, and this cult of personality kind of built around him. And that was great. Like, I was 11 when that happened. And so he was this big brother figure that would be there in the junctions in between all the shows. And, you'd come back from school and there was this guy who you kind of wanted to be like. I wouldn't say he was really cool. He's not Arthur Fonzarelli or somebody like that. But he was cool enough, and he was friendly, and he was young enough that you could relate to him. And he just had this way about him. He was a breath of fresh air across not just children's TV, but across the whole of the BBC at that precise time, and very much led a charge. So that was one prong of it. But as soon as they paired him with Gordon the Gopher, that's when the slightly older kids, sorry Z, but I'm going to include you in that bracket. That's when the slightly older kids, who would usually look at characters like him and see this kind of overly sincere, bright-toothed, spiky-haired goon, they would say, I'm not watching that, I'm not listening to him. But by adding the glove puppet and the whole conceit that everybody knew it was a glove puppet, they played up on that too, the fact that it was a guy under the desk. I wouldn't say it was meta, but it did add an extra layer to it, which meant that the older kids didn't feel quite so guilty about the fact they were still watching kids' TV. Very, very clever. It probably didn't happen by accident, but it was all alive. And within a very short period of time, Schofield went from that to taking over the Saturday morning slot that Noel Edmonds had kind of pioneered in the 70s with the Swap Shop, and then Mike Reid had continued for a few years. That all needed refreshing as well, and so they renamed it Going Live. They put him together with the extraordinarily fit Sarah Green, and they were the right couple at the right time in the late 80s, and this bloke could do no wrong. I have grown up with Phillip Schofield on the telly. I've always, I would say admired him, but I did respect him. And I've always considered him to be amongst the best of certainly UK broadcasters.
So what you're saying is he used a puppet to reach out and touch a load of kids.
That puppet face says it all, folks. Look at that puppet face. It says it all regarding the situation.
So
in hindsight.
you three guys, is all this like ancient history to you? You know, you either not even alive, or this is stuff that you've only ever seen these pictures. You've never seen videos.
I always liked the guy. Like I was born in the early '90s, so I sort of.
I look at this.
He became the establishment, and then he became a cult figure, didn't he? He managed to drift into that territory where students kind of latched onto him again, and so he became a little bit. When Twitter and social media started to boom, he became that kind of meta figure because there are people who've grown up in a time where he was never not on the telly. So I don't think he did that deliberately either, but he's had a very charmed life and a very nice career up until this point.
He has certainly been a mainstay. I just wanted to make this point that in the 80s he was fisting his co-worker in the closet, and it like
Jesus.
My
goodness,
we're going right for the blood. Jesus.
I believe Vasco says he looks very amiable and inoffensive guy, like the guy from Blue's Clues. Yeah, like I think that's accurate. Tree Goblin says the BBC hates you all. Hope Gordon was not hand wash only. The ice cream says I liked him when I was a kid, but I can't bear him in my adult life. That's perfect. Yeah, so you are correct. Like my entire life, he's already been on TV. Like there wasn't a time when he appeared. Like he was just one of those mainstay things that had always been there. Just like this morning. Like I don't remember. Phillip
Schofield. I remember when this started as well. Christ, this makes me feel old. Okay, carry on. I'll be back in a minute. God.
So yeah, I used to watch this on TV when I was 6 or whatever. This and Rosie and Jim on ITV or whatever.
Rosie and Jim, yes.
When there was only 4 channels to choose from, and at that time it was hosted by Richard and Judy, who. They sort of established this daytime formula, this fake husband and wife thing. They went on to be real husband and wife, but you know what I mean? Like the show, they replaced the hosts, but it always follows this male-female husband and wife dynamic, and it like.
God, I forgot that Judy Finnegan used to be hot. Wow.
Well, once upon a time, yes.
Somewhat going on there for sure.
Yeah. Not a vacuous black hole that she turned into.
They've gone really strange, haven't they? Like in the intermittent years. Richard, though, he reminds me of like a sitcom dad, in it. Like this morning could have worked as a sitcom and it would have been fine. So they hosted it for fucking years or whatever. And they changed the hosts all the time. They had Eamon and Ruth, like who we mentioned earlier. Phillip Schofield started after John Leslie got fired for his own sort of dramas, his own sex dramas or whatever. Again, I was a child, and my understanding is that like he hasn't been like charged with anything, or that there's no proof that anything happened with him. But where the smoke.
You don't need proof, do you? You just need to say it, and a lot of the time that's all it takes.
I would caution that don't accuse John Leslie of anything at all, because we all know what was said. You can't talk about that on YouTube. But yeah, he was. These were accusations leveled at him by a former co-worker that were obviously incendiary and very distasteful. But no charges were ever brought against John Leslie. And as I understand it, obviously his career was greatly affected by the entire thing, by the stigma attached to it. As I understand it, his accuser has continued to work in the media, but she's a woman of age now as well. So I don't really know what either of them either of them are doing. But yeah, I do know that John Leslie was never convicted of anything, even though obviously lots of people did go to the tabloids with various accusations. That's all in the public domain.
Yeah. So it's certainly a stateable fact that John Leslie lost his job over those allegations, and that Phillip Schofield was his replacement. We got a subscriber on Twitch. Thank you to Deathcon. Thank you very much. So Wohangan Dunk says Richard Madeley is the Alan Partridge of rough anal, apparently. So John Leslie
your punters really do go for it, don't they?
It's savage here. John Leslie was never convicted of any sex crimes for when he was working at This Morning. But Frank Talbot, the weatherman, he got stung in Operation U-Tree, and he is a confirmed pedophile. And when I was a child, that always looked like so much fun, running around on the UK.
Having Fred chase you.
Ideally,
this guy is a card carrying wrong'un, isn't he? He went on the run and everything, didn't he?
Yeah. So so Operation U-Tree, we should probably explain that a little bit. That when the whole Jimmy Savile news broke, the mainstream media here went on a full-on witch hunt, and and every single lead that anyone dropped was front page news, and some of them were true and some of them weren't true, very much the whole Me Too thing in America, but for 70s TV presenters. So then Phillip Schofield replaces Richard Madeley, and then 7 years later, Holly Willoughby starts the show, and replacing Fern Britton. And Fern Britton is one of the many people who've come out this week to make snide comments about Phillip Schofield. And she has been beefing with Amanda Holden as well. So this is... Catherine Ryan said a thing. Go and read these yourself. Even that fucking cleaning witch from that show going as well.
She's a lovely lady, Commie. I don't know what you're talking about. She could clean my house any day.
This is if Anne Robinson and Mrs. Trunchbull had a baby together. That's what they would come out like.
It would seem that quite a few celebrities have come out and said that Phillip is difficult to work with.
So
the amount of people who've come out and said that Holly Willoughby is difficult to work with is precisely zero. So I think this is one of the reasons that he's got these lawyers in, because I believe it's not as insidious as everybody thinks. It's just that when his contract is up for renegotiation in April, they're not going to want him back. His brand is tainted. Whereas Holly is a good 20 years younger than Phillip. And this might be one of those cases where they're going BBC blood on the carpet and getting rid of Phillip because he's just too old and too difficult.
That's the key. That's the key to this. See, that word brand is so important. Yes, they're human beings. Yes, they've been on television collectively, if you added it all together, for about 60 years. But even more so than certainly when Schofield first broke out in the 80s and even into the 90s, these people now, because partly of social media power, are more their own brand than ever. In some ways, as the landscape of British TV completely changes and we move to streaming models, which I've no doubt is coming, the BBC are going to have to get used to it. Then this is going to be increasingly more so, where everybody will be a brand. We're all brands of our own. Yeah. So these people who are working within the mainstream media, even more so, and they are conscious of it too. Agents who, for example, say, we've heard stories, haven't we, over the years? They haggle for percentages, don't they? Every time a contract's up for renewal. That was one. That was what they focused most of their attention on then. But now they advise them on not just on their conduct when they're on the red carpet or when they're at Iceland getting the Frozens in and a couple of fans may ask for an autograph. That used to be all it really was. Now it's social media conduct too. And it's supposed, the BBC are supposed to have that. That's supposed to be like locked tight, black and white, the things you can and can't say. But anybody who doesn't work for the BBC, I wouldn't say it's open season, but it's largely between them and their agent, as I understand it. But that's what's changed everything. That's why they're all brands now. Holly is a brand. Phil is a brand. This morning is a brand of its own too. It's legacy.
We're all brands as well. Bristolian Dave brand. Petition for me to be a co-host with Holly on this morning. If anyone wants to get that started,
I'll sign that for you, buddy. We'll make the dream happen.
I promise I wouldn't do anything naughty to her.
And reality-based television, also known as really bad television.
So like these people, it's not just that they have a TV show now. They have their own lifestyle brands and their own soap, and their own perfumes and stuff. So there's a lot riding on it, and it's interesting. And like the recent Gary Lineker example, that it shows you that with social media and that fake friendship that you have with the brand of that celebrity, you can be more powerful than the network and it.
Mark, you mentioned Gary Lineker there. Compare. Gary Lineker can work for the BBC, and he does, despite what that slimy so-and-so says. Gary Lineker is in the employ of the BBC. He's their highest paid personality. And yet he's able to still have that deal advertising Walker's Crisps. Heaven knows he's been doing that for like 30 years. So he can do all of that and still do and say whatever he likes on Twitter. And there's no repercussions for it whatsoever. Whereas Phillip Schofield, when the story dominated the press last year about him and Holly in the queue to see the late Queen when she was in her coffin, that cost Schofield his deal with WeBuyAnyCar.com. And that's up to WeBuyAnyCar. Obviously, Schofield's brand was affected by that, so was Holly's. But then you've got Gary Lineker, the stuff that he's been saying on social media, the way that he behaves, was arguably worse. And yet, because he is a far leftist and a gobshite, he's kept all his deals in place, probably had pay rises. The disparity there is so glaring.
He has files on everyone. That's what he has. He has files on everyone. So when they come for him, he can just open up his files and say, Phil's done this, Holly's done that. Gino, look at Gino's file.
Leave Gino alone. Gino's amazing. I fucking love that guy. We should probably state, because of the topic of the show, as far as we're aware, Gary Lineker is not a nonce. As far as we're aware.
So you make an interesting point as well, Dan, about the restrictions at the BBC, like what you can and can't say. And one thing that I noticed when I was looking through all of this press coverage is that a lot of it is coming from GB News, who you could argue would have a vested interest in the failure of a more mainstream channel. Where so Eamon Holmes is a host there now, and this is a joke that he made about the thing.
I think there should have been a special award for Phillip Schofield and Holly Willoughby for Best Actors. They may or may not be together on the telly today, but he's brought in lawyers, she's brought in PR team. The public surely suss that there's no chemistry, that it's a broken fit between the two of them, and the fact that this morning does not depend on who presents it. It's an institution. It will carry on no matter who presents it, and anybody can check the viewing figures. There's no difference between whether they present it or anyone else.
So he's definitely right. What I love about that clip is the last sentence is quite Trumpian, in the way that is check the viewing figures, you'll see it was just as good when I was there.
It sounds so bitter and resentful.
Yeah, I mean, what you say, it's interesting that the word Trumpian has come to represent basically telling the truth. Yeah, that's what Eamon was doing there. Eamon's a class act. He's got nothing to prove. Again, I've never been a particular fan of Eamon Holmes. I've always found him a little bland, but he always tells the truth.
Yeah. we had an episode of this show with Anna, that Star Wars girl, where we EFAP'd like an episode of This Morning when there were. You remember a couple of.
What did Anna make of that?
She didn't know what to. It was kind of like this, where it wasn't planned for that to happen, but scenarios unfolded like in the week. That was the same week that there was like a terror attack in Plymouth or something. Like, so everyone was talking about incels. Like,
right.
And there's a woman comes onto This Morning to talk about incel culture and how she's been.
I've seen a clip of that. Yeah,
all of that
it's
stuff.
extraordinary. To see elements of something that's sort of tied to the culture war and new media. Really, it's that kind of speak through the lens of the most mainstream, bland show, milquetoast show on British TV. I've only ever seen one clip for that, and it was hilarious. They had no idea what they were talking about. It was.
It's like, oh, these people can't get sex, so they just kill everyone. It's like these people, the mainstream folks, it's dying, and the Alliance of Alternatives, that's what I call all of us, it is burying them. One creator, one comic, one character at a time, and that's why I encourage everyone to be creators like us.
It was during this show as well that I first noticed. Have you ever? You never see gay incels. Why is that? Like, because they always get some. That's why.
Yeah, mate, I've never met an incel. I've met lots of blokes who can't get laid. I've never met an incel though.
What's the actual definition of an incel these days? Because I swear,
involuntary celibate. They want sex, but they can't get it. So naturally, they just kill everyone for some reason.
Yeah,
allegedly.
Allegedly.
The only logical explanation. So, Phillip Schofield's brother has also been in the news this week, coincidentally. His brother, there they are together. That's Phil on the left, and his brother Timothy on the.
Yeah, I've got a brother. I would never pose with him like that. That's really
weird.
weird.
To a feather, ladies and gentlemen.
So incest too? I don't.
It's a bit strange.
Is that the sequel?
Incest too, yeah. Oh god.
So he has been done for sex offences and in jail for 12 years today. Like Dave sent me a link earlier to that. And apparently shows no remorse. What's the next one? Oh yeah, so there's some theory that maybe this is why they're not really talking very much. Like Phillip Schofield took like 2 weeks off this morning, like while his brother was in court, and didn't tell Holly Willoughby like that this impending PR disaster was about to happen. But even worse, he didn't tell the police. So during the trial, the court heard that Phillip Schofield said that his brother confessed to watching pornography with the boy, the underage boy, and that they'd masturbated together. And Schofield told him it should never happen again. So not only did he not tell her that this thing was coming, like he knew that it was true, and it
So this is testimony. Good Lord.
Yeah. He's fucked.
If my brother was to do that, was to confess something like that to me, I would frog march him to the cop shop. And
I'd probably kill my brother if I'm honest. If he admitted to
Rope and
I'd be like that.
ladies and gentlemen.
in Bristol, that's how they deal with them down there.
You don't touch kids. You just don't.
No, I completely agree.
Apparently he didn't touch the kid. He only masturbated with him. But
well, no. So it's been that. So this is like a thing. So he said that he had a boy round and they watched porn together and they sat on opposite sides of the sofa and masturbated themselves. And then the boy says that there's more than that happened. done some other stuff, which Timothy denies. But like to do that other stuff, like the age of consent in the UK is only 16, isn't it? But to watch porn and masturbate, you have to be 18. Like, so
you have to be 18 to masturbate.
I did that way underage.
That's news to me.
Break it to you, buddy. But I think you need to apply for a new wanker's permit. If you, I don't think that this was.
So you got a license for that?
Got a license for that cock.
That's why we all stole Playboys from the shop when we were in school. That's why.
Hunting for bush porn was a major pastime for. I'm sure that Z had the same experiences back in the 70s and the 80s. Yeah, it was good stuff. Great days.
I mean, there's also the question of what did Philip know and how long did he know it? And if he did know it, why had he kept it quiet? So again, that's something that's tainted his brand, especially with such high profile cases of late, like Jimmy Savile, Gary Glitter, and Rolf. Even Rolf and Prince Andrew.
Well, even without the sexual side to it, and believe me, I'm not trying to separate them at all, but just looking at it as regards how these brands, how what affects one brand can contaminate another when it's bad press. You look across to Ant and Dec when Ant wrapped his car around a tree whilst allegedly experimenting with the old Colombian marching powder. When he did that. He immediately, they didn't sever all ties, but he immediately went on sabbatical, didn't he, from that silly jungle show, and Dec continued to do it with other presenters. They were sensible enough to part ways. I don't know whether they cared enough about one another or whether it was their agents saying, just keep your distance, because it was affecting Dec personally, one would imagine, but also the Ant and Dec. That's also a brand in itself, and so is Holly and Phil. So when even though it wasn't Phil in the dock, all this is bound to affect Holly and Phil and Holly, and it's going to affect This Morning as well. And to think that there's this moral question here, because I wasn't in court. We don't know. We don't know what was. How deep this was discussed, but the fact that it's made it into the press, obviously this is in the public domain, so we can comment about it. Particularly as the man, there's a conviction secured on this. It's icky. That's putting it mildly.
He essentially, Phillip Schofield protected his brother, who was a sex offender. Doesn't matter if it was for a minute or for a millennium. He protected a sex offender. What does that say about that?
I think you have to look at it that way. I mean, if somebody said to you, if a family member said, the other day, I double parked or something like that, they'd committed some minor moral impropriety. You say, hey, you shouldn't really have done that. Or if a family member said that they drove off from a petrol station without paying for the petrol, that kind of thing, you'd have a few words for them. They'd need your counsel and some correction. You wouldn't just say, oh, okay, as long as you don't do it again. You'd have some sharp words for them. And this is like that, but like 5,000 times worse. And I can't believe that Phillip Schofield would sit on this. I find it extraordinary.
It's in the eyes, folks. Look at their eyes. Demon eyes, demon teeth. That kind of malevolent look about them. They're demons. No wonder they're protecting each other.
That's the thing. Although we live in a time where people are permanently online and the court of public opinion on these sort of things is enormous. Many people would have judged him guilty of whatever crimes plopped into their heads, before a single shred of evidence would have appeared, and implicated Philip in it, in whatever he did, even if he's 100% innocent and he's done absolutely nothing wrong. He's already been hung, drawn, and quartered online by anybody who posts a news article about him.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Wherever you lay that shit, it's going to stink. That's the truth of the matter, and it's human nature that this sort of stuff follows people around. It's always been the case. And if I dare say, if you're ever accused of something that you haven't done, and I know that there are people that get falsely accused. I've no doubt there are still people who get falsely imprisoned.
I mean, just look at the recent Johnny Depp debacle last year. I mean, it's obscene what can actually happen to you because of he said, she said.
Yeah.
And have your career entirely in tatters because of that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's, as soon as they mentioned about like with Johnny Depp, as soon as that first story came out, he lost everything instantly. He was dismissed from all his projects. He was taken off of his advertising, all except one. I think. What was that perfume brand kept him on? There was one.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. I can see the advert. Come to think of it, the poster.
Yeah, I can't remember where.
Well, the same thing in the UK happened to an actor. I don't know if you're aware of him. I won't. Noel Clarke, who who was on Doctor Who, but he was also on Evita's Own Pets, and obviously there's the kidulthood, adulthood films, and all it took was for the Guardian to print this hit piece on him based on next to nothing. And the man lost a 25-year career and all his projects that were in development, as well as many friendships and allegiances within the industry and a BAFTA Special Recognition Award. It all disappeared in 24 hours, and the man was left close to suicide. And it's taken 2 years for anybody to be willing to speak to him so that he could say his side to it, and a fantastic article by a writer I know that managed to unearth, because the Guardian didn't bother doing any actual journalism on this matter. You know, it's like because they all want to be all these newspapers. They all want to get the next scalp, and they don't care. You know, so to see what happened to Noel Clarke, and he's not the only one, and to Johnny Depp, what nearly happened to Johnny Depp. I don't care. Johnny Depp obviously is a movie star legend, and he's got more money than God. But you know, when it came to handling a silly woman, you know, an evil woman who was
Shot
for all
bed.
that she could get. Yeah.
He laid a bird on his fucking bed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, any fucking person. I don't care who you are. You shit on my bed, I'm shitting in your mouth. Like, there's no way. Like, I don't care. That's just
my goodness, Dave.
I don't care how hot she is. Yeah, this. Yeah.
I mean, I still would
pinch you one off on your pillows.
Crazy can be real good. I mean, but like, is there a line to it? I don't know.
So yeah. To the point, like that this affects the brand, and it like you can see here, this is mainstream media putting Phillip Schofield's name in the headline, and it like even though it wasn't him, like you know, the coverage is more about him than his actual brother.
Bit of selective editing, you could make it out like he was put in the slammer.
Yeah.
Well, no one gives a toss who Timothy Schofield is within reason, do we?
Every single story has got Philip's name on. Every single one. Yeah. Like that's the first thing you see.
It's a kind of like, it's a kind of guilt by association thing. And you know, like, his brother's a pedophile, so we should cancel him or whatever. And speaking of famous people whose brothers are pedophiles, Holly Willoughby left this morning earlier this week to go and see The King, like, and Phillip Schofield wasn't invited. He had to like stand there and do this morning by himself.
Oh, that's got to be rough, because if you look at what the two of them have done over the last 5 years, the most key things that Philip's actually done were presentations on the royal family. And for him not to be invited, he hasn't actually done a lot. He's done the royal wedding of Harry and Meghan in 2018. He did a retrospective on Prince Philip in 2021 and the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in 2022. So for him to be cut out of this, it must have stung quite significantly for him.
Yeah, he made like some snidey, bitchy comment, like, as she left as well, like, oh, where's my invite, or something like that. I forget what it was exactly. All right, so the next important piece in this puzzle is, you remember 3 years ago, Phillip Schofield came out as gay on This Morning, and which was a huge surprise to everyone in the country to learn that Phillip Schofield had been presenting us straight before this. Like, I had always assumed that he was gay, and I was genuinely surprised to learn he had a wife with children. You know.
See, his wife. This is where people like Z and myself, having grown up watching him, and his wife was also a TV presenter, Stephanie Lowe. She was also on Children's BBC. So their relationship, we saw them come together, start dating, get married, settle down, have kids. So this was their relationship was very much in the public eye, and so we all knew that that he was new. I said new in inverted commas. He was straight. They were married. It was seemingly one of the longest running showbiz marriages as well.
Yeah, I mean, after 13 years and 2 children together, when he came out as gay, this didn't do well for him at all. No. Well, a few people were going, yes, you live your best life. A lot of other people were going, oh, so you lied to your wife for 13 years, did you?
And it didn't. None of this made sense. I don't have a TV license. I don't watch this show, but I did catch some of the clipped coverage, and there was something about it I couldn't put my finger on at the time. It seemed a very strange thing to do publicly, because apparently his wife Stephanie had only found out about it that morning. I'm gonna go and come out on national TV, darling. Good night, have a good day. Goodbye. It was like that. Goodbye. You know, all that sort of stuff. So he dropped it on her, and then dropped it on the nation. And
did he pull an Elton John? Because wasn't Elton John married?
Elton John was married very, very briefly, but again, it was a different age. You know, we're going back to, and I remember that as well. I remember Elton John getting married, being on the news like that. But Elton John, we didn't know as much about celebrities' lives back in the 70s and in the 80s as we do now.
You weren't the only person to think this is a bit strange. Like, here's a clip of Joan Collins on Piers Morgan's show, talking about it. Let's have a quick look at that.
I haven't been in England, so what was the reason that he suddenly felt that he had to go public with this when a lot of people already knew? I mean, we all
there have been some rumors of inappropriateness, but they're unsubstantiated.
How do you mean inappropriateness?
Well, we don't.
I think that's not the point.
What the fuck is Kelly?
Perez Hilton dropping a spanner in the works as usual.
Yeah, that's the first time I've seen Perez Hilton since he was on Big Brother, 20 years ago.
That's a revelation, that clip. I mean, for start, there's Joan Collins, who's like 90, and she's totally based on this. You know, she's as you can see through it like that. You know, and same with, I can only imagine what Sharon Osbourne had to say about it, because I would imagine they'll be quite well acquainted.
I would have thought that because the clip of him actually coming out on that was aired, he was very uneasy about the whole thing. He did not look comfortable telling everybody. My belief on this is a newspaper was about to break it.
Oh, without a doubt.
And if he wasn't going to own it, they were, and he would have been taken down a lot sooner.
Yeah. So by coming out on This Morning, he gets a headline like this instead of the dirty, sordid headline that was
like a News of the World headline. If only it was still around.
This move is, I call this the Kevin Spacey defense, which we're about to get into.
Well, if you remember as well, Mark, that didn't he claim when he was talking about Holly to that he never had a gay relationship?
That sounds correct. I'm sure that he said he wasn't seeing anyone at the time.
Great actor, by the way.
So Kevin Spacey, his being a naughty boy as well. Convicted here as well in the UK, is my understanding.
Yeah,
I can't quite remember, but it came out that he had been groping some boys, and his defense was, "Oh, by the way, I'm gay."
Now, I think now you've said it, drawn this parallel, I believe that this is a remix of the same tune.
The Kevin Spacey defense. All right, so the next question: super injunctions. Does anyone want to take the floor and explain what a super injunction is?
What, legally?
It's like an injunction, but it's super.
Yeah, it's a glorified way of shutting the establishment up on a story that, well, everyone would love to cover, but you legally cannot because a court issues
Well, the word that they use, is a supercharged version of a regular injunction order. So it gives people that extra layer of protection for risk of the damages by defamation of character and things like that. And they're very, very expensive. As I understand it, they're quite commonplace in America. They like $100,000 will secure you a super injunction. So I don't know if any of you are experts on finances, what that would be in pounds sterling.
Probably
about 90,000 pounds.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So a super injunction. So a regular injunction is when the court tells the news you're not allowed to report on this story. Like it doesn't have enough public interest like behind it. You know, you're just revealing sexy details about them or whatever. The most famous one is probably 15 years ago now was this Ryan Giggs example, like that he was cheating on his wife, like, and he had a super injunction at the time. There's a whole bunch of them that all got exposed at that time. Jeremy Clarkson was cheating on his wife. John Terry was sleeping with Wayne Bridges' wife. There's another one that I'm not sure if it's been broken about a BBC comedian who paid prostitutes to shit on him. So I'll avoid using his name, but you all know who he is. Like, so a super injunction is a mechanism that's built into the establishment to restrict what the press can and can't report on. Like, and you know, like I'm a big free speech kind of a guy, so I find that a little bit like triggering that the government can say you're not allowed to report on this thing, but at the same time, you know, these are the people who chased Princess Diana to death. These are the people who hacked dead schoolgirls' mobile phones. Like, it's like, oh, maybe these guys need like an iron fist.
Yeah, Piers Morgan thinks that we've got a short memory as he has.
Yeah, that's why he left to go to CNN, and then he came back home because Alex Jones and Ben Shapiro tore him 2 new arseholes for the price of 1.
So the difference between a regular injunction and a super injunction is that a normal injunction, the press can say, oh, we caught this 51-year-old man having gay sex with another man, but the court have put an injunction, so we're not allowed to like say who it is. A super injunction is when there's an injunction and then you're also not allowed to even say that there's an injunction in it. So you can't say like, oh, they're not, you know, you can't even allude to the fact that that you're not allowed to talk about it. Ryan Giggs was the big one at the time. So there's speculations on the internet that Phillip Schofield has a super injunction against the UK media. No one's allowed to mention him and this person whose name I've redacted. And you can see like I've disguised his appearance, like so you shouldn't be able to work out who this
I have no idea.
It's Jeffrey Epstein.
So in the same week that he came out as being a homosexual to 1.8 million viewers or whatever, is the same week that this super injunction passed to stop the press reporting on an affair, a homosexual affair that Phillip Schofield may or may not been having with his personal assistant and a runner, like at this morning, a guy that he got a job or whatever. But just because there's a super injunction and they're not allowed to talk about this story doesn't mean like that they won't try and talk about this story like in a vague kind of meta way. Here's an example. So this headline is the mystery of Phillip Schofield's runner leaving this morning after toxic atmosphere rumors. It talks about like this guy leaving like you know, to go and work on
he went on to Loose Women, didn't he?
Instead, yeah. So this is an example where they're not allowed to say what happened hence like the use of words of mystery and rumors and stuff like but they're trying to give us clues, like if you know what you're looking for, if you're media literate enough, like you can see through like the charade that they're doing. So here he is at 18 years old.
Christ, he looks very young for an 18-year-old comic.
Yeah, even with that mustache. So this is him on the set of This Morning, like at 18, like invited by Phillip Schofield to come and have a look around, like
and a feel around. Oh.
So that's
But then there's also the questions of how long has he known this guy?
Well, yes, that's where we're getting to next. Oh, actually, I can't play that clip because I didn't superimpose the glasses on his face. Like, there's a clip of them doing they're like doing a screen test or whatever, and the guy asks Phillip Schofield, "Oh, where will you be in 3 years?" And then Schofield replies, "Oh, hopefully I'll still be getting away with it in 3 years." Like, it's really creepy. Like, with this.
Well, there's footage as well. A very short clip has gone onto Twitter. There's somebody, I don't know if you've seen this, that in a burger bar somewhere in Britain, it was probably London, was proposing to his girlfriend over lunch at some sort of restaurant, and Schofield was on the next table, and he got company.
I
young
have
man.
that clip if you want it. It was Jack Jones TV, and he got 1 million followers, and did a little video clip. Which
this is fascinating, it's obviously it's in the public domain as well.
Yes, it is in the public domain. So let me just.
It is, yes, great. So I am actually going to come to that clip, but now that you've got the clip, I'll play the clip instead of like the image that I had ready for that. So before we get to that, I want to talk about Phillip Schofield's friend, Simon Schofield, who apparently, you can see here, they're not related, even though they have the same surname in it. Like, they're best buds. There's lots of pictures of them hanging out. Here they are on Phillip Schofield's Instagram, going for a nice hike, maybe to a... Oh, I was going to make a dogging joke, but I'll step around that one. Here they are.
Checking out some of the cottages.
That's it.
Yeah.
We'll edit that into... Yeah. Here they are, like, drinking, singing, having a gay old time together, like, which is fine.
These two guys met in Theatreland back in the early 90s, when Schofield was in Dr. Dolittle, I think. Yeah, there we are, Dr. Dolittle.
Oh.
And so this is from Simon Schofield's Facebook, a picture of him with Phillip Schofield. Phillip Schofield's a bit older than him. And Dave, do you mind reading out this message, what is put as his status or whatever?
Yeah, he posted, "Look 12 and drugged for some reason at the Bristol Hippodrome." Oh,
jeez. That's a weird thing to say, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's as if he's mentioned, when he says drugs, he means Rohypnol, that kind of thing, or...
And Rohypnol used to be available on prescription back in the 80s, is my understanding. But whatever, this just a little bit suspicious. Don't worry about it. So here they are at a theatre event together, like as grown-ups. This is at the theatre where they do a lot of work together. To the Two-Faced Theatre Company. You can see that Phillip Schofield, a big donor here, alongside Brian Blessed as well, who was a big friend with Jimmy Savile, apparently.
He may have donated a couple of organs at some point. We don't know yet, allegedly.
So yeah, Phillip Schofield is definitely linked to this place, the Two-Faced Theatre Company. And Simon Schofield, you can check, he's like the owner, director of that group, and it like so just going to hang out with his buddy who runs a theatre company, like and get some events go in for disadvantaged
Go
young children. Like
So
this
it's
one
kind
here.
of it's kind of a network. It's functioning as a network, which potentially, and this happens a lot with agents, with talent scouts, and theatre schools such as the Anna Shaw School, the Quirk Academy as well. Pauline Quirks. They give some broadcasters and some production houses first look at upcoming talent, and I would imagine if that happens with actors. Oh no, because actually this young gentleman was a young actor, wasn't he? Not a presenter as such. It was a stage school, so they teach them everything here. So this is actually standard practice, really, that they funnel talent through to the media. The Brits, there's something called the Brits Academy as well, isn't there? That does the same for recording artists. So this isn't that unusual, this setup, but obviously, like everything else, it's potentially open to abuse, and for people who perhaps could have nefarious inclinations or tendencies, could, I suppose, see this as a way in to commit a criminal act.
I think that the demonstration that he knew this boy when the boy was 10, in and of itself, is a total nothing. Like, but when we look at this again through the lens of he covered up his brother's paedophilia,
it's a red flag. This looks like
a good red flag.
grooming.
Not a good red flag. One of the bad red flags. So there's that. When he was 10, then here's him and Simon together, like, looking like.
He's looking longingly at the.
This is 10 years ago, 2013.
This is another red flag.
I don't know where that hand is either.
Oh, we do not know where that hand is. Here he is. So Phillip Schofield was chatting to him on Twitter when he was 15. Like, this is it. The one interaction, the one public interaction, at least. Like, we can't see their DMs, but this is it. Phillip Schofield saying, see you on this morning sofa soon. The casting couch of this morning. So that's a thing. In the last couple of days, it's come out that Phillip Schofield's been also chatting up like this 21-year-old TikTok guy, like for 3 years, which would make him 18, which is fine. Like, I guess you're allowed to creep on 18-year-old dudes when you're
Schofield's typical twink, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know if a 50-year-old bloke did it to an 18-year-old girl. That would be a bit frowned upon, shall we say?
It's a red flag. The dots are being connected, folks. I'm seeing major red flags here.
Why does he look like Harry Potter in this one?
Oh, that's for the new reboot. This is an unrelated story. No, this is him on the set of This Morning. Like I said, Philip got him a job there. Like, and they were very close. I read one article that describes the way that Phil would take the young gay crew members like under his wing. Like, we can only guess what that could possibly mean. So here's a picture of them out on a date. Like, here's Phillip Schofield sucking a shisha thing.
Oh God!
In the background.
So old.
That's the face he makes when he's sucking cock. Oh.
I think this is from the same night, like from his 21st birthday, and you see Simon's there again as well, like in this big group.
Wonder what they gave him for his 21st birthday, gentlemen.
So this is the pic that we have. Here it is.
Now, this is from 2015 when he was 18 years old.
Oh, what's going on, guys? So we've hit the big 1 million followers. I can't explain how happy and how thankful I am for it. And I know it's a bit of a late video, but I've got a surprise for you guys. And why not go out with a bang?
1 million followers.
Oh.
I'm good.
Yo, what's going on, guys? So we've hit the big.
He's having a dinner date with his PA. Major red flag.
See, when I saw that, it had got no sound on it, so I just assumed it was a guy proposing to his girlfriend or something.
So this was 5 years before he came out on television.
Oh, God damn!
But it's just having dinner with his PA. That's not like a big deal.
Of course, it's a big deal. It's a huge red flag. If it weren't for this great guy with his celebration, it would have been under the radar and we wouldn't have known about it. I'm seeing a lot of dots being connected. I know.
I mean, obviously, if you were to see, you'd assume that was his son, his nephew, godson, something like that, friend of the family. It's
Yeah, you wouldn't leap to a suspicious conclusion, would you? You'd assume that it was his grandson or something. And look how little he looks. He looks like he's 11 in this. And I know what that's like. When I was 18, I looked like a 12-year-old girl as well.
I didn't. I looked exactly as I do right now. I've had a beard since I was 13 years old. I had to grow up fast in the South Wales Valley.
When I was young, sometimes men would try and get me in their cars, and then I'd grab my crotch and
was one of them Phillip Schofield? Is that why you're doing all this, mate?
So that's that. And then, so this is them at the National TV Awards, getting an award for this morning. And then here he is, just a regular, runner assistant guy, on the stage, close,
He's very much a member of the production team. And I tell you what, in this all these things that you're showing us here, what it's showing to me is that since Phillip Schofield came out, since that conversation, Holly Willoughby has noticeably aged. And it does make you wonder whether it's and a couple of people in the chat have said, are her boobs getting smaller? Which obviously is a crime against nature, definitely. But more to the point, she looks like a woman who is quite stressed out. I think that's what it could be. Stress in what aspect of her life? Obviously we can't say, but it just seems that it's a coincidence that this seemed to have manifest on her from 2020 to present day.
Yeah. And I can totally understand, if there was a guy who I was regularly going on holiday with my family and children.
With her own children,
yeah. And then it turned out that even if he's strictly 18 and one day...
What if his brother's a convicted paedophile? It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's going to give you anxious feelings in it, about that.
I've raised 6 children, and I tell you what, I would, there'd be so many red flags popping up. It'd be untrue. It'd be I would not be comfortable. Should we say?
So, and the gossip on this National TV Awards night is that after this, his boyfriend goes into their VIP booth or whatever, screaming that he's got an announcement that he has to make to everyone who's gathered there. And he's escorted out by security. Does photos of that
really
trying to get back to them. Phillip Schofield punching a dart is a don't mess with me kind of a guy. And then that's one of the things that leads to him leaving the show, and that whole incident, which is all dodgy.
Or get tanked up at the NTAs, and then you're going to drop a stinker in the green room afterwards. They must have been bricking it. That's funny as fuck.
That's the end of what I have to show you about the Phillip Schofield affair. But like the points that I want to make is there is no definitive hard proof that Phillip Schofield was like grooming this boy in it. There's lots of like circumstantial evidence without like DMs and stuff. Like that would be impossible for us to prove. It's purely speculation. Is it appropriate for a 58-year-old national treasure of a TV presenter to have this power imbalance relationship with a young 18-year-old twink boy who like gets your coffees or whatever? That's like should be gross enough like by itself. But you know, if it's not illegal to pound the ass of 18 barely legal boys or whatever is allowed to do that. Like it's just the whole thing, you know, when you re-examine it from this position where we are now, where we know about his brother and stuff, like it all looks 10% more suspicious.
Yeah, it all adds up. You could make a case. It may not pass the balance of probabilities, but you could make a case.
If the papers had the evidence that he was doing that he was actually committing a crime, I can't believe that they would pass a super injunction on it. Like, if there was evidence that it was happening, that would be in the public interest in it, and they would have to do it. The only reason that the courts and the judges and stuff would cover that up because they're pedophiles as well.
Well, looking at Jimmy Savile,
no, they would cover it up. Super injunctions. Money has changed hands. That's the simple, cold, hard fact of reality. It's one of the evils of the modern world.
Although I would make a point that I use Jimmy Savile as an example. Those who are protected by the establishment, especially in the United Kingdom, get a degree of freedom that ordinary people do not get. Now, I know Schofield's career is or wasn't as long or as extensive as Jimmy Savile's, but he has been around
Not
for
far off.
a good few decades.
Nearly
longer
40
than I
years.
can. So
Since 1985, that's 38 years on British TV.
So that amounts to a certain level of protection and reputation, especially when he was, conducting royal events as well. And it just goes to show that, well, the press is better safe than sorry in this case. And because we all pass away eventually, but I'm sure that when Phillip Schofield passes away, there'll be a whole host of, like an avalanche of accusations. Because the mainstream always takes time for the mainstream to catch up with us lot, isn't it? And that's when it will all probably be revealed to the world.
This super chat has nothing to do with the content of this beer.
Thank you. Super chat there. Just checking with the chat, they've been fucking going at it. Like, you saw this comment, Chad, 6 kids. Well done.
Proper Brummy.
Well, 100 Dunk says, young female Mark would look like a freshly shaved and bathed narwhal. I did, like, I already, I had long hair, like, and I, like, still to this day, like, I wear women's jeans instead of men's jeans for, like, a tighter fit. Like,
another creator who's a fan of women's clothing.
I can confirm this. I've met him in real life, and he does wear women's jeans.
Like, and that's one of the things that triggers me about the whole gender stereotypes debate. And it, like, this was settled like 20 years ago.
If you
like,
want to wear a dress, just wear a fucking dress. It's fine. I told you, it's not a problem.
Exactly.
You wear jeans, Kami? My goodness, how American of you.
Actually, side fact here. Do you know where jeans come from? All right, hang on. So,
your mum and dad.
I'm trying to think what's the best way. I'm just going to tell you. So, jeans come from Genoa in Italy, and denim, the fabric, is named Fabric de Nîmes because it's the fabric of Nîmes, the place where denim comes from.
Really? No, I didn't know that.
Citizen Ronan says, I need a shower after all of that. Yeah, it's kind of all gross, isn't it? There's Taxonomia's super chat. This super chat has nothing to do with the content on this. Thank you, comrade. Like, you're a hero. Every donation goes towards the revolution. What was the comment I was going to go back to? Oh, yeah, this one. So I need a shower after all that. So the more I looked into it, the more like red flags that I was finding.
Beer. Yeah. Beer.
Thank you. And also this week, I watched the documentary on ITV about Rolf Harris, like, and his crimes. Another like TV mainstay legend in the UK or whatever that was exposed. And I'd watched that like having some knowledge of what I've shown you today. And there was a part in it where the newspapers were, they knew that Rolf Harris had been arrested, like, and was questioned, like, in Operation U-Tree or whatever. But they weren't allowed to say that he was, like, and they had to do that thing where they put a black outline of a person with a question mark and say, oh, an 82-year-old Australian's being questioned, like, and when I saw that, I thought, that's gross, like, that the press aren't allowed to report that. And it just gave me more conviction that doing this episode that we just did was like the socially and morally right thing to do in it, like, to put that information out there.
Well, for the press, it's a better safe than sorry attitude, because if they break any rules, any injunctions, any super injunctions, whether they're right or wrong, they're going to face some kind of backlash from the establishment. So it's best to have that attitude from their perspective.
And then Noam Chomsky says that the media will always protect the people who run the media in it. Basically, the plot of Anchorman, you know, that you can't report on the people who own the media, like, you know, vested interests and all that jazz.
Well, Tucker Carlson said it perfectly in that short video that he published to Twitter around a week ago, illustrated it effortlessly, the way that a broadcaster of that caliber can, in the simplest of terms. If anybody hasn't seen that, I recommend you go and take a look. I'll be watching very carefully at what Tucker does next and listening hard to everything that he says, because I believe that could well not take down the modern media, but I think it could be, what we're witnessing there could be a major shot fired, and may even affect real change. I don't know.
Well, the mainstream media is such a 20th century concept to get
and
accurate
they know
information.
that as well. They know they're a dinosaur.
That's why we are the future, ladies and gentlemen. And no other genders or binaries, as I like to say.
Cool. So does anyone have any like closing statements? Like, does anyone want to distance themselves from what we just did? Like,
I think all the underage stuff is misdirect, mostly fueled by the media. I think Philip's too old for the position he's in. His popularity is waning. Holly Willoughby is involved in a lot more productions than he is, almost 3 times as many. She's definitely the golden girl. When she started, she was the apprentice to his Sith Lord, and now she's ready to take him out the picture. And I'd imagine that they'd probably carry on with Dermot O'Leary.
I mean, he's 61 years old, Phillip Schofield. Now you've said it, he probably is becoming too old to front that show, realistically, because of the kind of people that it's supposed to appeal to. Yeah, because times change. Richard and Judy, I think that Judy may have been 60 when they came off it, but Richard certainly wasn't. He has been on it for 20 years as well, so it's a long time.
They get away with some outrageous things on This Morning as well, like pre-Watershed. Like, I'm pretty certain that they did prostate exams live.
Yeah, they have.
This Morning.
Yeah, they did bollock checking as well.
Oh, thank you, Charlie's London, for becoming a member. So I'm gonna throw to you momentarily, Dave, to do the poem. If you've been keeping on top of that,
looking forward to this.
I'll take one last opportunity to do some state-mandated shilling. Going back, Krishna Kid, subscribe to this channel and the Twitch channel. We maintained a 5 average, it looks like, over there, so that's really great. Thank you for that. Go and subscribe to Bristolian Dave's channel if you like watching a fat dude show you everything he bought at the charity shop.
Britain's Nicocado Avocado.
Oh, thank you, Alex VRB. That's very kind of you as well. Go and check out Dan's channel. Go and wow, like what's going on? Thank you. Charlie says, read my comment. Where are you?
Oh, Charlie's London. I follow Charlie's London on Twitter. It seems like a really great project. I've been meaning to find out more about that.
Wonderful woman, very talented.
Yeah, I can't see your comment, Charlie's. I think that. Oh wow, what the fuck is going on? Is someone donating memberships? Like, I mean, thank you for doing that.
Are they not renewals by any chance?
Taxonomy says nobody has activated gifted memberships. Yeah, so they're gifts. They're from Tatsu. So thank you very much for that. Like, that's really kind. It's throwing me off where we are. Oh yeah, go and subscribe to the Spacebook. Like, even if you don't like Doctor Who, there's more than just Doctor Who content on there. And then
we're going live tomorrow night. In fact, Mark, with Facebook Live, our Saturday show. It's been taking a break for a couple of weeks, but we're back talking about the week in pop culture, movies and TV and all manner of other things. I've been watching a couple of things, and so has my comrade in arms, Ian Diaz. He'll be on that one too. Not quite sure who else is there. I think Matt Pott may be there. There's going to be a few. We're rustling people aboard anyway, and we're going to have a good old geek out and look at the lay of the land as we start another run of the Spacebook Live tomorrow night at 8 p.m. UK time there on the Spacebook YouTube channel, and there's all the Doctor Who stuff too. Oh, thank you, Charlie's London. A woman of great taste. Yeah, I'm very interested in speaking to you about your project, come to think of it. Yeah, so
we need more women creators, real women, not trannies.
Charlie's. There you go, Charlie.
So go and unsubscribe to Ryan's channel. Like, there. No, go and check it out.
Love this channel name.
There's a great interview on there with me. Like, if you're looking for an entry point, he does a thing, Rising Stars, where
Rising Stars, suggestion videos, reality based, which is the name of my show. The Truth is reality based. We go through the origins and happenings of fellow creators. You're all invited to be on the show one at a time, so we can stretch it out, get more watch hours. And Kwame's welcome back as well. I talk about anything and everything from popular culture, and talking about Cleopatra in the pinned video, all the way to talking about Tom Baker, Tom Jones, my goodness, all sorts of different
Tom O'Connor.
Well, not yet, but thanks for the suggestion. I'll make it
Tom
into a video too.
Basically, anybody, if you call Tom, you're going to be okay. Yeah, I'd love to have you on my channel for a conversation as well. If that'd be a laugh. I'm delighted to get to talk to you all.
Yeah, that's the best thing. Like, just getting to hang out with people, like, show off to people who don't know who you are yet. And Z, this is go and subscribe to this
I'll be
channel.
back on the Mr. Brown Alliance channel for the summary of this week's pop culture news, views, and rants on Sunday night at 10 o'clock. And I think I'll also be there with Ian David Diaz, the Mega Geek.
What? I'll have to have a word with him.
Oh, just to mention, I also pay tribute to prominent dead people through Gone But Not Forgotten, as well as fellow creators who have sadly passed away. So, yeah.
Right.
I literally turn anything into a video.
How do you excel at being dead? What's the...
No, we pay tribute to the creator or to the prominent person. I can literally turn anything into a YouTube video.
Do you want a backing track, Dave?
You do what you want, and I will just give it a go and see what happens.
Have we got to sort of go with our lighters from side to side, or do anything like that?
Oh, don't worry, Dave will be on full screen.
Oh fuck! I'm cursing Jan for not being here right now.
I'm gonna go with no music. I'm gonna specifically get some beat poetry music for next time. So go on then, Dave, take us out. Thank you everyone for watching, subscribe, all that jazz, etc.
A poem by Bristolian Dave. 2 noobs, no new commies. Miss Marvel, 6 feet under. Holly Willoughby and Phil Rift. Puppets to touch children. That Star Wars girl is not an incel. 12 years for incestuous brother. Shit is going to stick. Shit on the bed. Amber turd. Holly's boobs reducing. Coincidence or not? You decide.